Hello viewers, myself Asma Parveen. Today's my topic is Mughal system of administration. Akbar was the chief architect of the Mughal administrative system. He not only took several institutions from Sher Shah's administration, he reformed and perfected them, but also adopted many foreign elements, Persians and Arabic system with necessary changes. Though some alternations were made here and there by his successors, but in general his administrative system maintained intact till its eclipse. Absolute monarchy, centralized government, divine origin of kingship, and benevolent despotism were some of the silent features of the Mughal polity. So, sources. The main source of the Mughal polity were Ain-e Akbari and official records, royal proclamations, writings of Abul Fazl and other European travelers, etc. Central government. Emperor. The emperor was the supreme head of the state. All the powers were vested in him. He was the supreme commander of the armed forces and also the head of the executive, legislature, and judiciary. He was regarded as the shadow of God upon the earth. Except Akbar, almost all the Mughal rulers administered the country according to ulema. Though absolute, the king was not a hard-hearted tyrant. The ideal of kingship was best illustrated by Abul Fazl. To quote him, tyranny in unlawful in everyone, especially in the sovereign who is guardian of the world. Generally, the king had the following routine of work. He listened the complaints of the people in the morning, hold darbar, that is diwan-e-am in the afternoon, and met his ministers in the evening at diwan-e-khas. Ministers. The emperor was assisted by a council of ministers in his daily administration. They were appointed by him and hold office in his will. The chief among them were Vakil, Bakshi. Vakil means prime minister, Wazir or Diwan, prime minister for finance, Mir Bakshi, war minister, and paymaster general, Mir Saman, Mir Saman in charge of imperial household and stores and supplies for the army. Mushtahib, censor of public morals. Chief Sadar, minister for charities. Minister for charities. Chief Sadar, minister for charities and endowment. Chief Khazi, minister for law and justice, etc. These ministers, as said by Smith, were usually his emperor's pupils rather than his teachers. In fact, they were two glorified secretaries, besides they were assisted by a number of officials, daroga, dek, chowki, etc. Then provincial administration. Subah, for the administrative convenience and efficiency, Akbar abolished the age-old Jagirdari system and divided the empire into five provinces called subas. The number of subas was gradually increased to 22 with the extension of the Mughal Empire. The administrative set-up of a suba was just similar to that of the central government. Then Subedar or Nizam. Subedar or Nizam was the head of the Suba. He was appointed by the emperor. But for the declaration of the war and peace, he was almost a king in minister. He possessed all. He possessed all the civil and military powers. He maintained law and order, dispensed dispensed justice, helped Diwan in collection of land revenue, commanded provincial force, etc. He was assisted by a number of officers like Diwan, Amil, Bitikchi, Potdar, and Faujdar. On them, Diwan was the most powerful. He had full control over the ports and had all revenue powers of the Suba. According to Dr. Ishwari Prasad, the Diwan acted as a check on the governor and prevented the latter from becoming the powerful. He was also appointed by the king. The Subedar were frequently transferred from province to province. Sarkar. Each Sarkar was divided into Sarkar or districts. Faujdar was the head of the Sarkar. He was the executive and artillery head of the Sarkar. Generally, he will assist Subedar in maintaining peace and order. Amal Guzar was the revenue collector of the Sarkar. Paraganas or Mahals. The Sarkars was subdivided into Paraganas or Mahals. The Paraganas was in charge of Shirdar. He commanded a small contingent of troops, maintained law and order, and administered criminal justice. Amil was responsible for the assessment and collection of land revenue and civil justice. The land records of a paragana were maintained by an officer called Konungo. Then village administration. Each paragana comprised a group of villages. Villages was the lowest unit of administration. Mukhaddam and Patwari were the village officers. Mukhaddam would keep order in the village and Patwari maintained the revenue records. The village was administered by the village panchayat. It not only tried the cases but also took several measures for the well-being of the villagers. Town administration. The town administration was looked after by the Kotwal. He not only maintained law and order but also detected thieves, regulated prices, guarded the heirless property, kept a contingent troops, etc. Then Mansabdari system. Akbar was not only an innovator of the Mansabdari system, its traces can be seen from the times of Delhi Sultans itself. However, Akbar only regularized and systemized and made it as scientific as possible. The word Mansab denotes rank, dignity, or office. The holder of a Mansab was called Mansabdar. His main duty was to render military or other service to the emperor whenever required. Its feature. Each Mansabdar had to maintain, according to his rank, a fixed quota of horses and an equal number of soldiers with all the necessary equipment. The appointment, promotion, dismissal of Mansabdars rested at emperor's will and pleasure. A Mansabdar need not always begin at the lowest grade. He could at once be appointed at the highest rank. In fact, the grade, salary, and service conditions were fixed by the emperor. The office of the Mansabdar was not hereditary. The salaries of the Mansabdar can be paid either in cash or in jagirs. However, Akbar paid only cash. Every Mansabdar had to discharge both the civil and military duties, hence, it was described as the army, the peerage, and civil administration all rolled into one. Abul Fazl mentioned 33 grades of Mansabdar ranging from 10,000 5,000 horses. However, he was some special grades of 7,000, 10,000, 12,000, which were mainly given to the princes of royal blood and to the trusted officials like Raja Man Singh, Raja Todarmal, etc. In addition, there was Zat and Sawar ranks for the Mansabdars. Though war prevailed much controversy over the meaning of these terms, but it was generally held that Zat was a personal rank and Sawar was an additional rank for which he will paid extra allowances for what for that he had to maintain additional horsemen. In order to prevent corruption practice in Mansabdari system, Akbar introduced a practice of branding of horses and maintenance of the description roles of soldiers. Defects of the Mansabdari system. The Mansabdari system was defective in many ways. It did not provide any direct and contact between emperor and the soldiers. Since the soldiers were recruited by the Mansabdar, they were more loyal to him than to the emperor. It lacked homogeneity and cohesion since Mansabdar belonging to Turks, Uzbeks, Persians, etc. recruited their own men. There was no classification of troops into regiments and hence there is no unity of command. In spite of much precautions, the Mansabdar became most corruptive. False musters, mutual lending of men and horses at the time of inspection were regular feature. Latfullah Khan, who led the rank of 7,000, never maintained even 7 asses, let not speak of the soldier and horses. Thus they cheated the emperor. As cheating was another defect. Cheating was then another defect. Its merits of the Mansabdari system. In spite of its defects, it was an improvement for the medieval military system. It combined the advantages of the both feudal system and the tribal leadership. It was though this system the loyalty of the people was ensured to the Mughal Empire. Then standing army. In addition to the Mansabdari system, the Mughal maintained a standing army of 25 to 50,000 consisting of infantry, artillery, cavalry, elephantry and navy. Akbar realized the need of maintaining navy to fight the emperors, but his successors neglected it. Revenue administration, bandobast system or Rayatwari system. The fame of Akbar was an administrator rest on his land revenue administration. In land revenue system, Akbar followed the footstep of Sher Shah. With the help of Raja Todarmal, he removed many old abuses like annual assessment, heavy taxation, etc. And introduced the Bandobast system. It was based upon three principles: measurement and survey, classification of land according to its yield, and assessment of land revenue. Next one is measurement and survey. First of all, the land under cultivation was carefully measured by the new implement called jarit. Jarit means a bamboo connected with iron rings, as against hamper ropes which were labeled to contract and expand, used by Sher Shah. Then classification. Next, the agricultural land was classified into four classes according to the continuity of the cultivation. They were polage land, cultivated annually, then paruti, left uncultivated for 1 or 2 years, then charchar land, left uncultivated for 3 to 4 years, banjar land, left uncultivated 5 years or more. Afterwards, each class of land was divided into three grades: good, middle, and bad according to the yield. Then assessment. Then, taking into consideration the average produce of these three grades of land and also the average yield of past 10 years, the state demand was fixed at one third. The state demand was fixed on a permanent basis. Then, next one is Rayotwari system. The farmers were given the option to pay the land tax either in cash or in kind for collecting the land tax. Middlemen were removed. The farmers could pay either the tax directly into the state treasury or to the state official like the Amit, Potdar, and Patwari, etc., appointed for that purpose only. This was known as Rayatwari system, which is still prevalent in India today. The farmers were very were given pattas, that means title deeds, and were required to sign khubuliyat, that means deeds of agreement. Remission of revenue were granted in times of famine and drought. Akbar also instituted the granting of loans to the cultivators at a low rate of interest and to be repaid in easy installment. Then judicial administration. The Mughals were the lovers of justice. Akbar declared, if I were guilty of an unjust act, I would rise in judgment against myself. Jahangir went step forward to render justice by setting up a chain of justice. The Mughal justice system was probably the weakest branch of administration. It did not conceive of a graded hierarchy of courts controlled by department of central government. It did not have one law court for all the people and no supreme court of judiciary for the interpretation of the law. On thorough study, however, there were different types of courts at different levels. The emperor was the fountainhead of the justice. His courts was the highest court of appeal in the country. Capital punishment could be given only by the king. Below him was the chief qazi, the highest judicial officer in the country. At provincial level, the subedars held courts and administered justice. Qazis were appointed for towns and districts to try both the civil and criminal cases. The districts and villages were decided by village panchayats. Though there was no written law, cases were decided in accordance with the Quranic law. Aurangzeb caused the preparation of digest of Muslim law known as Fatwa-e-Alamgiri. Punishment were severe. Fines, mutilation, and whipping were the common punishment. In spite of its defects, the Mughal judicial system was speedy, simple, and cheap. Then conclusion. In general, the Mughal administration was humane and benevolent. According to Dr. Ishwari Prasad, administrative efficiency reached its high watermark for the first time under Muhammadan law. Thank you.